Welcome to the Man Space Podcast, where we are redefining manhood. I'm your host, Kyle Torrey. And this podcast is for men and by men. Yeah, for men and by men. But ladies, listen, you're welcome. Pull up a chair, listen in so you can hear all the things that men are dealing with in your life. Maybe it's your boyfriend, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's a cousin, or uncle, what have you. This is just an opportunity for you to be able to get an ear in on, man, what men are carrying and the stresses that we're dealing with, and some of the solutions to, how we live life. But anyway, we're going to jump in today. We got a hot topic. Yeah, hot topic. This topic has been requested for a long time, and I've been just pushing it off. But today, what we're going to talk about is dating. Yeah, dating. This is just in our culture in general, they got all types of podcasts about these things. There's all types of discussions between men and women on what dating life should look like, what relationships should look like. My last podcast, I talked about a lot of the apprehensions men have in being in relationships. But once you've made a decision to interact with a young lady, it's got to start somewhere. And so it starts with dating. And so we're going to hop into that topic today. And the first thing we're going to talk about is initiative. But when you're talking about being in a relationship with the young lady, one of the first things that you need to show her and that she needs to experience so that she can learn and trust in who you are as a man is taking initiative. And so it's one of those things that we got to learn what to do. And one of the best places to do it is in dating. It's one of the first times they're going to be able to see you actually take initiative. One, hopefully there was some initiative taken when you got that number. These days it's a little bit easier. You could just slide in the DM. I guess that's initiative. You can slide in the DM, have a little conversation with somebody for 4, 5, 6 months till you gather up enough courage to ask, for that number, and then y'all can start having conversations. But when I'm talking about initiative, is not I'm going to assume that you've already started corresponding with the young lady. You've already either met her at the job or met her at the gym, and there's been a conversation and numbers have been exchanged. But what I'm talking about is what happens next, right? So you've gotten the number, you've had some introductory conversations. A woman is sitting back and waiting for you to take initiative and saying that I want to see you. I want to spend time with you. I want to take you out. And that's something that we have to do. Let me just jump off and let me say this before I even get into the meat of this. When it comes to taking initiative, men, stop just texting. Listen, we gotta stop. You gotta communicate, not just text. Texting is cool. It's all right. It works. It's a method to it. It allows you to convey certain words, certain things, certain ideas. But the reality is that should not be your default. Your default should be to dial up a phone number, talk to that young lady and hold a conversation, to be able to communicate the things that you want, the things that you desire. And that's really what a woman wants. Whenever you hear interviews with women or you have conversations, I have so many conversations with single women, all they say all the time is, I feel like if a man really is interested in me, he's going to communicate it. And what I be trying to tell them is that's not necessarily true. A lot of men these days would just be your friend forever until you pretty much show them that it's okay for them to take it to the next step. And so for men, we got to get out of our comfort zones. We can't just friend these girls to death. What you need to do is to take initiative and tell her that I want to see you. I want to take you out. Another piece of initiative is planning what y'all do. Right? Like, what is it going to look like once I take you out? One of the things that I will tell all men, is a no-no, do not do it, is first date should never be a movie. I'm going to repeat that. First date should never be a movie. Why do I say that? It's because you're going to be taking the person into a dark room and sitting there with no conversation for 2 hours. For 2 hours, there's no interaction besides just sitting next to each other and maybe sharing a popcorn. There's no communication. And really, the whole point of dating is to see what kind of person that is, to be able to understand, their ideas, to be able to ask questions, to be able to engage. And so for men, one of the best ways to do that is go somewhere where it's not too loud. One of the first places that I hear a lot of men these days who do take women out is to a coffee shop. I'm not a big coffee person, so it's never really crossed my mind. But I hear that coffee shops are a good spot to be able to take somebody. Why? Because you can tuck off in the corner and not just do your work, because that's typically what a lot of people go to coffee shops for, but you can duck off in the corner and have a real good conversation with a person. Also, Another place you could take them is obviously out to dinner. That's an easy one. Sometimes we stay clear from going out to dinner because we feel like we're going to be judged based off of where we take them. There was obviously most of y'all saw the Instagram post and the whole thing about taking a girl to Cheesecake Factory. Obviously, we know that ain't going to go over too well. But I know there's a lot of pressure on, hey, what do my finances look like? Where am I going to take her? And then how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost in order for me to have a conversation with you to even see if I'm really interested? Going past just the physical appearance. But going out to eat is one of the best spaces, man. And if you're going to be dating and you're going to be dating, then a part of taking initiative is prior to the date, already having a list of places that you've already vetted. Places that serve good food, places that that ambiance is dope. It's going to set, it's going to be a vibe. Women want to go with you and be in a little vibe, man. They don't want to be in a little hole in the wall, dirty place where they scared to even go in the bathroom and wash their hands, right? So you want to have spaces. So do some what we call recon. Before you ever take a woman out, find you 3 or 4 or 5 places. Ask people, what are some dope spots to be able to take a young lady that that might be affordable. You can look at the menu. You can look at the cost. That way you already know ahead of time how much it's going to cost you before you even go out with the young lady, before you even offer to take her out. You already got your spots, right? And then the places that you go to, man, when you get there, man, you need to have some dialogue. I would tell men, I do a lot of mentoring with men. I do a lot of counseling with men. And one thing I tell men all the time, even with talking to my son, as he's, just a young man starting to engage with young ladies at school and stuff, is like, bro, you need to have questions. You need to have things you already have planned to communicate and to ask so you can get to know the person, right? Ain't nothing worse than just sitting on the phone with somebody or sitting at dinner with somebody and you have that awkward silence, right? That awkward silence. We've all been there. We're like, you know what I mean? You just trying to think of something to say, something else. She not really giving nothing, and me, we have a little anxiety about that because we don't want no awkward or whack dates. You know what I mean? But so already have some pre-planned questions that that you're going to ask. Also, man, when you're asking questions, don't ask questions that could be answered with yes or no. Ask questions that are open-ended. Tell stories, ask them, about like, what are some of the best times that they've had in their life? What are some of the blessed places that they enjoyed? Like, tell me about that. Like I love to follow up a question with, tell me more about that. Yeah, for real. Okay. Tell me more. Right. That's a great way to be able to hear from a person. I'm telling you right now, and I'm big on stereotypes, but I'm not, I'm not no person that says that every stereotype relates, but I think there's something to all stereotypes. But listen, women like to dialogue. They like to communicate. They enjoy it. So, man, by asking a few open-ended questions, bro, you can be filling up 2-3 hours of conversations just by having maybe 5 to 10 open-ended questions. Because the reality is, as you start to get into the stories, as you start to engage, there are going to be things that come up that take the conversation left or to the right, or opportunities for you to be able to engage. One thing I will say, man, as a man, as you're evaluating and you're having conversations and you're asking open-ended questions, make sure those open-ended questions are questions that are going to allow you to get to know the person. Don't have some random throwaway questions that don't matter. Like, what kind of shoes you like? Are you into Jordans? Like that don't ask silly questions, man, that don't have nothing to do with nothing. You want to ask questions that are going to help you to evaluate, is this somebody that I want to continue to see and spend time being around? Right. And so with your questions, one thing I will always say is that, listen, you want to be with somebody who's going to engage back. Right. And so you have your questions, you engage, but you need to be paying attention on, is she interested in you as well? Is she just somebody that wants to talk and just wants to tell you about her and tell you about her needs, her desires, and her wants, and she's never asking you anything? She doesn't have any deep and questions that are of value and of substance, right? Now, I will say this: you got to look for red flags when you're on dates. If she's asking you questions about, and I think it's normal for somebody to ask, like, what you do, where do you work? Like, I know some men don't like that, but listen, if you can go anywhere else in America and meet a stranger and one of the first questions they're going to ask is what you do, you cannot say that when you dating a young lady or you go out with a woman that question is off limits. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I've heard men, I've been on podcasts, I've been guests on things. I've heard men say, she better not ask where I work for like the first 2-3 dates because it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. It's a part of our identity. Most men, your job, you look at your job in some way, form, or fashion as a part of who you are. right? And so for that person who's wanting to know about who you are, they can ask that question. It's not always about money. We have to not be afraid for somebody to ask us questions that in some way, form, or fashion might tie back to money or my bank account or how much money I make. Now, if she asked that question, that's a whole different deal. Do I think that she should be asking you questions about how much money you make? Absolutely not. That is a red flag, but it's not a red flag for somebody to ask you what you do, right? That shows how you're spending your time. It also can show your values. But anyway, but yeah, you need to be cognizant. You need to be listening. You need to be looking at her, the way she's answering questions. You need to be looking at who she's saying that she's around, who her friends are, what kind of friends she has. You should be listening, asking questions about family, because here's the reality. The person who you get with in a relationship or the person who you end up with marrying, listen, you're not just marrying them, you're marrying their family. And so that is going to have an impact on your life. And so asking some general questions about those things is okay. And those are things I would want to know. Another thing that I would recommend when you take somebody out outside of going to dinner is maybe take them somewhere where they can let their hair down. And what I mean by that is maybe you take them somewhere where they can be active, right? Go shoot pool, go bowling, go to we got a bunch of different spots here in St. Louis, things that you can go to. And there's different things there. They might have basketball hoops, or they might have ping pong or a video game, just something where the person can let their hair down and see if you can have fun with this person. Because here's the thing, you need to be looking for a friend. People always ask me, man, I'm out here looking for a spouse. Yes, you're looking for a spouse, but the first thing you need to look for is a friend. Somebody that you enjoy spending life with, somebody you enjoy just talking to and being around. Because the reality is, once you get to a point of marriage, you're going to need that friendship to keep you married. You need to marry your friend so that when you have conflict in the marriage, you have a added motivation for resolving it so that we can get back to having fun and enjoying time with one another because you're my friend and I don't want to be mad at my friend. So anyway, you want to take that person somewhere where I feel like they can let their hair down, where you can be yourself, where it's not all about, putting up your best, being all stuffy, asking all these rigid questions or whatever, but being in a place where you could be more relaxed, have a little bit more fun and be able to engage and see who the person really is. Yeah. Next aspect of dating that I want to deal with is communication. And I dealt with it briefly in my last point, but I want to get a little bit more into details. We need to have integrity with our communication. So the first thing you need to be communicating, bro, is that if you're in a situation and you are not really looking at getting serious or really looking at settling down or something like that, then you need to be fair, man, and communicate that up front and let that young lady make the decision if she still wants to engage with you. Okay. So you need to communicate about your intentions, right? So you need to communicate about your intentions. Hey, you know what? I enjoyed my time. I would really like to see you again. Or that's something you can say even before y'all leave. At the end of the day, just let her know, no, I enjoyed this. And yeah, you're going to be still hearing from me. Yes, I want to spend more time with you based off of what I have experienced up to this point. But let's say that didn't happen and she goes on about her business and she's just sitting there by the phone for the next few days waiting to see what's going to happen. Men, communicate. Do not let days go by without sending out a text or picking up the phone and giving her a call. If you do send out a text, have that be followed up with a call. The next text should be man, I had a great time. Man, it is so, listen, men. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of the cheat code, but I need you to use these superpowers for good. Listen, if you go out with a young lady, the next morning, one of your first texts to her needs to be how you felt about yesterday's experience, that time of going out with her. And hear me, compliments are amazing. Compliments are always received well. Become a master, become skilled at compliments. Man, I had a wonderful time last night. Man, I love just laughing with you. You have a beautiful smile. Yeah, man, I love when you were talking about XYZ at your job. Man, you seem like a very caring person. I love that about you. Let her know that you enjoyed yourself. Let her know some things that you actually picked up on or to show that you were listening, that you were engaged, right? Communicate those things to her so that she knows that, this wasn't just another fly by the seat of my pants date. He probably dating a lot of young ladies and this might not have been a big deal to him, but no, you need to communicate that, no, I really enjoyed myself and I noticed XYZ about you. And I thought it was dope. I thought it was amazing. Man, I would love to see you again. And then also the other thing you have to do is schedule or let her know the next time you want to communicate. So even if you're going to, let's say you're busy over the next 2 days and you do need to speak to her tomorrow or the next day, just let her know, like, hey, I had a great time. I got XYZ going on today. I'm not going to be able to call you tonight, but man, are you available tomorrow afternoon? Can I call you on your lunch break? Can I catch you after work tomorrow? Can I catch you after work today? Right? Communicate when you're going to pick up the phone. The other thing about that, it holds you accountable for actually having a conversation. What I hear from women so many times is, why don't men, they ask me all the time, like, Kyle, why don't men communicate? Like, why do they text message me all the time? Why are they sending me WYD, what you doing, text? Like, I hate that. They hate it. I'm telling you, fellas, they hate it. Learn to be a savant in communicating with a woman, with someone of the opposite gender. You really should learn how to communicate, period, with all people, but especially a woman. Also, as you all are having conversations over the next few days or few weeks, and maybe you've seen her a couple of times, at some point you need to start communicating some of the things that you know are going to be your non-negotiables. Though I hate that word because I don't feel like we should really have non-negotiables, really. I think we should have things that mean a lot to us that's really going to sway how we might make a decision moving forward. But you need to leave things with an open hand because people change, man. And if somebody's really seeing something of value in a relationship, they might be willing to change that. I'll give you an example. I know some people, some guys who don't drink. And so they, maybe because of their upbringing, maybe they've had alcoholism in their family. And so they're dating a young lady who drinks, right? And that might be something that they never want in their home. They never want around their kids, and something that they don't really partake in when they go out. And I've seen women who have stopped drinking because their husband doesn't drink. I've seen women stop drinking maybe for religious reasons, maybe Muslim, maybe a Christian or something. They have chosen to abstain from drinking or eating certain types of food because of the dude they with, right? So I say non-negotiables because they might be non-negotiables in order for you to be married, but not non-negotiables that you don't give a person an opportunity to communicate about those things, and then also maybe possibly change those things. But you got to communicate those things that you hold dear, like about if you want to have children, right? It's no point in dating somebody for 3, 4, 5 months and that person says that they don't ever want to have children. It's a hard line. They're not going to have children. It's not going to happen. And you're a person that you want to have children, and there's no way you're going to move forward in a relationship without having children. You need to know things like that. You need to be knowing about things about, like, are they willing to move? Like, if you want to move to Miami for your job, right, and that's something that's a goal of yours and that's a non-negotiable, then you need to communicate. Like, are you willing to move? Like, if things got more serious, would you be willing to relocate? Maybe they have to stay here because their mom's sick or whatever. There's a lot of different reasons. So we have to communicate our non-negotiables. We have to communicate our values. Maybe it's a religious thing. Like I said, maybe you're a Christian and she is an atheist, or maybe she's a Christian and you not. You know what I'm saying? And so you need to communicate, like, man, I don't know about that religious stuff. Now, I've seen a lot of dudes become Christians because they girls start taking dudes to church, man, and they get saved, man, which hey, you can say what you want about it, man. I know I got quite a few friends, dudes who man, they love Jesus. They love the Lord. They church dudes to the heart now. But man, when they first met that young lady, hey, they wouldn't have walked. They said they'll never walk into church. But hey, man, you just never know. When a person says that something's valuable to them and you care about them, then you're willing to open yourself up and give some things a chance. Next thing I want to talk about when it comes to this dating thing is compatibility. And I have a saying, man, choose compatibility over chemistry. Now I know this one might be a little bit more controversial for some because, man, everything's about vibes in these days. Man, our culture, everything is about the vibe, how I feel. Listen, man, your feelings change every day. You don't know, man, you can have a chemical imbalance. You can have hormone issues going on. So we can't give everything and all this weight into feelings. What we need to be looking for is, who do I match well with, right? Who is a person, like I said, that's a good friend, somebody that we in sync, like we make each other better. Like, man, like I love to communicate with this person. This person gets me. They understand me. They create a safe space for me. Because here's the reality. Sometimes that person is not the most attractive person in the room. And I know as men, we are visual creatures. Hear me, I understand. I'm not making light of how visual we are. We are visual creatures. But listen, looks will only get you so far. Man, y'all can say what y'all want about Kevin Samuels, but man, I remember one time he said something that I feel like hit me in it just changed the way I kind of view things. The person was talking about, this young lady, I think she was talking about how beautiful she was and how she she deserves a high value man, and you know, she got this and all that. And he said, look on Instagram. First, he pointed out that she wasn't married. He said, he told everybody, he challenged everybody. He said, look at all your Instagram models, the girls who get the most likes, some of the most beautiful, drop dead gorgeous women that you see on IG, and look at how many are married. Yeah. And as I started to think about it, I'm like, man, that is so true, because the reality is looks only get you so far. What men and what we need and what we're truly looking for is a place where we can feel safe, a place where we're going to feel like we can be ourselves, a place where we don't feel like we're being judged, a place where we feel like we're being encouraged, a place where we feel like somebody sees value in who I am and what I bring to the table, not somebody who's judging me, not somebody who has unrealistic expectations of me, but it's fine. I can walk up in a room and they bad, right? And so, man, what I would tell you as men is look for compatibility. Next thing I want to talk about when it comes to dating, and I feel like we have to in 2024, is intimacy. Intimacy starts way before anybody ever gets to a bedroom. Intimacy starts with two people who like each other, who are drawing close to one another, who are pouring into one another's love languages. Yeah, the issue that I see oftentimes is that people are trying to love people through their own love language. To give you an example, my love language is words of affirmation. So when it comes to anybody that I've ever dated or even my wife, what I communicate, or what comes most naturally to me, is the way I show love to them is through giving compliments. I communicate compliments very easily. Why? Because that's what's most valuable to me. When I first got married, that's what I did. I always communicated all these affirmations about my wife and how she looked and what she was doing, all those things. And it was cool to her, but that's not her love language. Her love language is time spent, acts of service. The reality is you have to know what the other person's love language is in order to love them well. Another aspect of intimacy is just proximity. Sometimes that means you got to get outside of the house, though you're an introvert, because she's an extrovert and she want to be outside. Maybe that means you got to go out in nature because she a person who likes to hike, but you a person who grew up in the city and that ain't your thing. But if that's what she wants to do, if that's something that's going to make her feel joy, then why not go do it with her? Why not sacrifice what's most comfortable for you and be uncomfortable for her? That's how you build. That's how you create intimacy. And then when you get to a point where it does get physical, it won't be so difficult. Yeah, two people can show up in a space because they both feel loved, they both feel poured into, they both feel built up, and they are ready to take it to that next level. It could be a beautiful thing. Now, I don't think it's more beautiful than when you're married and you with somebody that's fully committed to you. But let me tell you this, for those out there who they don't prioritize intimacy, but they prioritize sex. Let me tell you some of the pitfalls of physical intimacy. Let me just give you a story about something I learned personally, man. I remember I was in a different space in life. I was dating this young lady. Man, we had been dating for a couple months. Man, things were starting to get kind of serious. Man, we were spending a lot of time with one another. We were definitely physically intimate. And we had been doing that for a while. And, I was trying to make some changes in my life. Man, I was just like, you know what? Like, we got to stop. And so we're going to stop being physically intimate. And this was what was crazy. We had been dating for a couple of months. I had started thinking about, man, is this possibly somebody I'm going to marry? I started trying to think about, meeting her parents and, like her meeting my parents and getting more serious and really started to take this to the next level. And it was crazy. I made this decision for us to stop being physically intimate. And do you know, within 72 hours, what I realized, and just spending time with her with no physical intimacy, what I realized is that we had nothing. Like, nothing at all. Like, I realized, I'm not even feeling this person like that. But if you would ask me 72 hours ago, I was thinking about possibly marrying this girl. This, for me, what it showed me was how blinding physical intimacy is. Like, a lot of times we get into relationships and we rush, especially as men, into physical intimacy. And what you'll eventually realize is that, man, I'm not even really feeling this person. This person ain't really a good person even being a relationship with. We are not compatible. We really have nothing in common. Our values are different. But because the intimacy and the chemistry was so good, it blinded me to the reality of the things I should have been prioritizing and the things I should have been actually looking at. So let me tell you this, rushing into physical intimacy can be blinding. And what it can do is have you laying next to somebody that really ain't for you. Listen, I want to be honest, man. Dating is not easy. It's not. It can be fun. Don't get me wrong. It is very enjoyable. However, it's going to take us standing up as men and making some changes on how we interact with women. The first thing we got to do, as I said, man, we got to show initiative, man. We got to communicate. We got to let these women know what our expectations are, what we're looking to do, and be honest, have integrity with our communication. And the other thing is we have to make sure that we're choosing compatibility over chemistry. Because like I said, chemistry can be blind. Listen, that's not everything about dating, but man, we got to make a change, right? Always talk about where does change start. It's got to start somewhere. So it needs to start with us, man. We redefining manhood. Men are looked at horribly when it comes to dating. We should be the ones who are setting the tone and the trends with dating and making sure that it's done in a healthy manner. Yeah, make sure you like, subscribe. This is episode 2. Holla at your boy.